Good morning, people. We're in Matthew chapter 4 still. We're talking about the three temptations that Jesus had to face on the Mount of Temptation. First one was the lust of the eyes. Second one was the lust of the flesh, or the other way around. And then thirdly was the one about the pride of life. Satan said to Jesus on the top of a high mountain, "If you'll just worship me, Jesus, then I will give you all of this." The irony of that stupid conversation from Satan's point of view is that it already belonged to Jesus. You know, he who makes it generally owns it. Jesus made it. This was all his anyway. But Jesus went along with his thing, and eventually he said to Satan, "It is written, you shall only worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you worship." You see, he was drawing a distinction between self-worship and the worship of God. All the things that we've covered this last week have all been issues of self-worship. I'm better than you because I got more money than you. I'm better than you because I'm from a different race group than you. I'm better than you because of whatever the reason may be, as accentuating the ugly picture of what pride looks like. It's all about me. It's self-pride and it's self-worship. And Jesus illegitimizes self-worship in what he says. You're only allowed to worship God. So self-worship is part of the problem. Get rid of it so you're able to worship God. But there are other forms of pride. I think for me, the ugliest form of pride is spiritual pride, where I think I might be better than you because I'm able to do something you're not able to do. I guess some of the miracle workers that have been down through the ages think, I must be of a higher level of Christian living than you because, goodness me, look what I can do. And I can speak in tongues and I can prophesy and I can do all these things. And as much as they are beautiful and good in their place, if you think you're better than somebody else because you can do those things, you're in trouble. You're guilty of one of the greatest ugliness of what spiritual pride can look like. Now, Jesus, in the book of Mark, chapter 9, I believe it is, he was talking to James and Peter. They were brothers. They were the sons of Zebedee. And they came to Jesus with a question, kind of like sometimes your kid will come to you. They'll say, Dad, we want you to do something, and you're not allowed to say no. And they came to Jesus and said, Jesus, we want to ask you something, and basically, you've got to give us what we want. And Jesus probably smiled and said, so what do you want? And they said, Jesus, when you come in your kingdom, can we sit at your right and your left hand? Can we be above the rest of the disciples? After all, Jesus, we were one of the first ones that you called. After all, Peter would have said, I walked on water, Jesus. And James would have said some kind of quoting his credentials to Jesus as to why he thought he should sit at that particular place because he had done a particular thing. People, as much as it happened then, it happens today. And I would warn people, I would warn absolutely myself, that the moment we think that we are spiritually better than anybody else, that betterness can be easily lead you into this greater self-pride thing and a spiritual hurt that will run right through the ranks of the people you hang with. So let's be warned today. We're all equal in God's eyes. And Jesus answers this query by these two men, and he calls a kid, a little child. And he says this to them, he says, if you want to be great in the kingdom, you've got to become like one of these. You've got to become a child. And they're saying, man, but we wouldn't want to be a child. We're adults. We're mature human beings. Why would we want to become a child again? And Jesus said, well, unless you're willing to become like a child, trusting, naive maybe even, in trusting me, then you have no right to know where you're going to sit in the kingdom. And by the way, only God the Father knows who he's going to put in those places. So as much as it happened to the disciples, if it happened to them, got to tell you people, it happens today as well. Now I could go on about how this kind of spiritual pride wrecks relationships. It breaks up marriages. It destroys unity in the church, where one group think that they're more spiritual than another. The playing field is completely level, people. From salvation onwards, we're all equal in God's eyes. There are no favorites with God. We all have the same right. We all have the same responsibility. Let's make sure that no one looks down on anyone because they think they might be a little bit more spiritually proud than the other person, or spiritually better off than the other person. It's a subtle thing, I know, but it's very damaging if it comes to fruition. I hope you understand it. I hope you'll think about it. Cheers, guys. We'll see you again next week. See you on Monday. Bye-bye.